Welcome to Women Advancing, where the voices of world-changing female leaders gather to share their journey, their insights, hope, and practical how-tos in achieving their goals and making the world a better place through their purpose-driven leadership. I'm Kate Byrne. I'm the editor of womenadvancing.org and the CEO of Capital X. I'm the lucky and very fortunate host for today's conversation. Well, when we look back at 2020, oh my gosh, many are now better able to see that as difficult as it was, there are quite a few silver linings. One, we got to take a pause and do some inner reflection on what matters and what's important to us. And it created, namely around innovation and the important role that social entrepreneurs play in fueling it and helping them out and how they actually come up with very unique solutions to unusual problems. Something that's tough enough to create during normal times, whatever that word now means from this point on. But how does a leader get a team to rally during a crisis and really make sure that all are rowing in the same direction when the pressure to build the results is literally critical and in fact can impact people's lives? Well, today we're really fortunate to be joined by one of these social entrepreneurs whose work was recently recognized by Fast Company. We've got Kris Kepler, the CEO of LavaMaeX, a nonprofit that teaches people around the world how to bring mobile showers and other essential care services to the street. In other words, they deliver dignity. How lovely is that? She and her team found themselves in this exact situation. They were very, very afraid, but they stared that fear straight in the eye. And quitting and folding up the tent, frankly, was not an option. So let's find out how they came to deliver upon their promise. Kris, hello, welcome.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to have everyone learn from you. I mean, my goodness, talk about,
Quite a year. Quite a year continues to be.
Yeah, no kidding. So talk a little bit about LavaMaeX and also your journey to getting there. It's a really lovely one.
Oh, thank you. My background is in the private sector. And so I spent the previous 20 years designing and strategizing and researching for interactive agencies, brand agencies, and creating service experiences, product experiences, interactive experiences, and really about, now, oh my gosh, almost 4 years ago, I just had this feeling that I was designing things that weren't really making a difference. And so I really wanted to use my design skills to impact an underserved population, like those that are experiencing homelessness, to just show what a true human, amazing experience can do for people in a one-to-one manner. And so I happened to be in the office and I was on LinkedIn and I saw this amazing article on Denise, the founder of LavaMaeX, and said, I have to be a part of this journey. And at that point, I just literally sent her an email and said, I will do anything. I will lead your user experience. I will lead your programs. Please just, I want to be involved. And so I went in and I interviewed and volunteered at one of our pop-up care villages and was hired to be the senior director of programs and impact. And from there, it's just been a beautiful journey of working with the team and working with our guests and just continued to be fueled by the impact that myself and the team can make for those that are basically seen as invisible.
One of the pieces that I really respect and I think is just lovely is this notion of delivering dignity,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you refer to your community as guests, because to your point, so many don't refer to them at all. They don't even acknowledge their existence. And so I know that LavaMaeX's got one of the pieces that we talked about was this user-centered design done good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Done well.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about how you've taken something like, pop-up showers and villages and places of cleanliness and really turn them into an opportunity to deliver to a population what you refer to as a Ritz-Carlton of hygiene experience.
Right. Let me just say, Donnie Sandoval, our founder, when I got to LavaMaeX, this was really part of her premise. So a lot of it is using that premise of connecting people from a one-to-one perspective and looking at this service not as a transaction, but as a relational service. And this is something that she very much architected from the beginning. And really, the philosophy is what we call radical hospitality. And when you look at a service and say, this service, how you deliver it is just as important as the service itself. That's a really key mindset for people that is cultural for us. And so, really, what radical hospitality means is that you deliver the service with an unexpected level of care. So, you're restoring their dignity, you see them as people, you give them a sense of hope. And really, when you do that, it unlocks a lot of opportunity because you are seen as someone that is worthy and valuable and deserves the highest level of service. And so for us, it's about the compassion, the consistency, and the relationships and trust. I think it's just like any relationship we have in our lives. And I think it's that much more impactful for the unhoused because no one gives them that on the streets. And so you start to see their mindset shift when you deliver it in that way. They themselves begin to expect that level of care and that level of worthiness and respect. And I think that's what the most transformational part about our service is treating people as humans and saying, we love you no matter what. It's not always there for them on the streets really at all. So it's very powerful once you make those connections.
How do you motivate a team
Mm-hmm.
to pivot and to innovate? And then in listening to this, the opportunity to actually recognize and witness this real-time transition
Mm-hmm.
with your guests,
Mm-hmm.
and for your team to recognize, oh my goodness, talk about not only am I making it, I really am making a difference. And so they're able to experience the power of the impact real time, which I would think would be quite a motivator.
It's quite impactful. And I would say that at this point, the team members, there's 13 of us, we've all been here for at least 3+ years, right? So for us, it's personal. It's not just a job. These are people that we show up with or hang out with, and we ask them how they're doing, and we ask them how their night was, and it's very much a personal connection for us. So in a lot of ways, motivating the team isn't about motivating them to show up to work, right? It's about steering the ship and making sure you're finding or you're solving the right problems given your mission. And because we are so connected to people on the streets, it's easy for us to ideate and to design for because we listen to them. We hear what they're saying. We see the gaps. And we're really nimble and pretty fast at saying, okay, what's the problem? What's the gap? And is there a way we can solve for this? And all of that is a critical engine or input into our programming. And the staff, it's like I said, we're all very dedicated and passion and purpose driven for these groups of people.
So yours is definitely one of a key story regarding the pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Share a little bit about what you were facing at that point in time when 2020 happens. You're rolling along. It looks like things are going to be great. You've got a strategic plan, and then our friend, lovely COVID-19.
Yes.
And
Yes. Well, yes. So, we had met our previous 5-year impact goal of serving 30,000 Californians through our direct service programs about 16 months early. So for us, the pivot was a very strategic pivot that happened in 2019 to shift to teaching and training, organizations and individuals to deliver mobile showers and other critical services to the streets.
Right.
The majority of the team, however, beginning in 2020, were all working direct service for years before then. So part of my goal was to align everybody on what's our process, what's our next steps, what are the tools, what's our consulting model that we want to follow to help teach and train others. And it was actually a really wonderful progression because when you have practiced something for so long, I think it's just a natural inclination to want to teach it, especially for those of us that are so committed to this. And so really the beginning of 2020 was saying, how are we going to consult, knowing that we'd already had a framework in place, somewhat from before. I was doing a lot of that myself actually before we officially brought the whole team in. But we also wanted to stay committed to direct service. So part of the offering was consulting, but then still offering direct service on the ground. And really where the impact for us was in with COVID in February was we had to suspend our direct service programs because with the showers, we didn't know the virus is airborne. What does that look like? We had to update our protocols. We had to secure PPE gear. And at that point, hospitals were in such need for that gear. And we also had to suspend our pop-up care villages, which brought together approximately 500 to 600 people in one group at a time. So we said, okay, we will suspend this for now, but what can we do? And again, that goes back to the user-centric approach where we looked at, the resources that we had and said, let's create hygiene kits and go into the encampments and drop hygiene kits with soap and shampoo and body wipes, and also add COVID items to that kit, such as masks and hand sanitizer. And then we also educated them on COVID because they didn't know what was going on. All of a sudden, no one's in the streets, even walking by. So they're isolated and they're scared because some of these resources are shutting down and they don't know where to go. My goal was to keep connected with guests and help them. And so last year, while we were revising our direct service programs and trying to figure out how to spin them up again, we delivered approximately 8,500 kits throughout Oakland, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And we brought the UCSF street nursing team with us. So we would go out, we'd go directly into encampments, we deliver kits alongside drinkable water, which was nowhere to be found, food, clothes, and then UCSF street nursing team would deliver medical care alongside us. Also in the process of doing this, as I mentioned, speaking of soap and how important hand washing is during COVID, we found that there was no place for people to wash their hands, let alone take a shower. So during that period of time, we came back and said, well, what if we created a hand washing station for us to deploy, a DIY hand washing station for us to deploy and create a toolkit and let others in their communities deploy it themselves hyperlocally. That was another key piece, was just really looking at what people were experiencing and creating a new product or experience to meet the need. What was probably most interesting about the hand washing stations is that there's a group in Flagstaff, Arizona called Red Feather Development Group that took our kit and created hand washing stations for those living on the Navajo and Hopi nations. And so they've deployed 600 of them themselves just to help meet the need for those on reservations that never had running water in the first place. I think it's the power of ideating, but then also iterating on it. We've been through a few iterations of the hand washing stations and just not being afraid to fail, going out there and getting it out there and see what people do with it and see what our communities do with it.
So how is it that certain teams have what I call an attitude of an institutional yes? And your team clearly has that.
Yes.
There's an issue. We're going to figure it out. It may take a while. I don't care. We're going to throw some stuff up against the spaghetti, but we're not going to give up until we've figured this out.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, our founder is amazing. I know I referenced Donnie's earlier. This is the culture that she started and she will say that just throw spaghetti against the wall. If the spaghetti has to be the recipe of our mission.
Yeah.
But, not anything and everything, but let's figure out if we have an idea, let's test it out and try it out. So this idea of iteration and an agile approach and a user-centric culture is everything that she had started from the beginning. And it's just part of what we do. And I think more people need to say yes, just to explore, then no, this doesn't fit into my box and I need to continue to fit something into a box. And with COVID, you might have had a box, but now it's all, kind of thrown up in the air. And it's really a time right now to innovate. It's a period of disruption And it's really time to break down those silos and collaborate. And we've always done that, but I think more and more people are starting to realize there's the power of problem solving together. There's
Right.
a lot of magic in that as well. So to answer your question, yes, was always something that Donnie's really believed in. We're just really fortunate to have that as part of our DNA.
Two things stand out to me right there. Aside from the collaboration piece, is this notion of not falling in love with an idea,
Yeah.
because there is going to be ever present iteration, and there's not this notion. It doesn't sound as though there's this possessiveness of, well, this is my idea,
Yeah.
or the need that, oh great, my idea got ahead. So there's also, along with that institutional, yes, there's an institutional hour.
Yes. Yeah. And then that's a really good point. For me, I consider myself a servant leader.
Mhm.
So I'm always getting feedback and brainstorming with the team. But I also recognize that as a leader, I need to set the North Star and the vision and direct them where I want us to go. So I think it's a very much a balance, and sometimes it could be hard to balance, but at the same time, when you have such a passionate group of people that love to do this work, and we've all worked with each other for a while now, it's become really natural. And so part of where I see my role is to really enable the team members to step up and have their ideas and be part of the process. So I think in a lot of ways, buy-in is important for you to tactically get something done. But at the same time, we're all very open to feedback. And that's a culture that I am really, really passionate about, is the feedback and the transparency and then what's working and what's not. And that goes all the way from product ideation to, you might have an issue with your coworkers. So let's have the space to work it out. So I think overall, our lives are so intertwined between personal and professional. There is no boundaries. So you have to be able to look at your life and people's lives overall. Know that it's more complicated now and isolating than it ever has been before.
Right. And it's not about power, it's about service.
It's about service, and it's about transparency, and it's about collaboration, and it's about putting your guests' needs first. And I think when you take the focus, if I think when that's your focus always, it grounds you
Mhm.
and how you approach things. And it's not about me, and it's not about whose idea is what. It's about, here's how we're solving problems together in
Mhm.
service of people that are hurting and heartbroken and have no hope. And so that really is the core of our our approach. We all feel very lucky to be here and to do this work. It gives us a lot, just like it gives them. It's a two-way street.
Right. Mutual, reciprocity.
Hmm.
What are some of your obstacles, and how can people help? How can we help you, and how can we help? Are there ways that people could help you get around what some of the obstacles are? I mean, I'm assuming there probably are some bureaucracies potentially, just because you are working in cities, so there's got to be some infrastructure that crops up, or if there's funding and that kind of thing. And how do you get around them? The
Yeah,
top.
it's a really good question. I mean, I would say for those that we're teaching and training, funding is one of the biggest barriers for them. So to purchase a truck and trailer can cost anywhere from $60,000, depending on your size of your trailer, to 100,000.
Mm.
So like one of our dreams is to, if I had $500,000 that I could give those that we're teaching and training to get them up and off the ground sooner, so funding isn't as much of an issue, that would
Mhm.
be amazing. So we as can accelerate their advancement, not only through the teaching, but through the funding, which is a critical part of it. I also think, in terms of cities, one of the challenges that we experience and that those that are trying to do the service experience is just being able to dump your gray water or your black water. I know this is getting a little technical, but I mean, if you think about it, there's water in a trailer, right? That's through the shower, through the toilet. And so just making it more accessible for people to get permits to either dump in their cities or, just find places to do this and make that process easier for them. So I would say those are probably two of the core barriers that we come up against.
And I would say I think that latter one is definitely one that's going to be here for a bit, just until we start seeing some turnaround in the economy. So the sooner we fix that, obviously the better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we've made some progress, especially with COVID. I think it's really heightened the awareness of how important health and hygiene is right now. And through the CARES Act, there's more money coming in through cities and governments to fund initiatives like this. Really partnering with your city and your human services departments are so critical, because if the city cares about the issue, then they'll help you make it happen. And we've found the most success with cities that really want to get this service up and running, especially if there's people out there that want to do it for them, and are funded by them to do it. So I think it's really aligning on the importance of that, and it takes critical mass and a lot of people to get out there to do this work, so it becomes normalized, right?
Right.
It's no longer like, oh my gosh, a mobile hygiene trailer, how does this work? It's really, there's quite a few people. We've tracked about over 250 organizations throughout the world that are doing this work, and it just keeps growing. And the more we normalize it and the more we work with cities and they work with us to help us do this work, that's really critical for success.
All right. Well, we're coming to a close, but before we do, I want to tap your brilliant brain for
Okay.
3 takeaways that you would share with everyone who's joining us today and listening with regards to motivating, innovating, servant leadership. You take your pick. You've got all sorts to pick from.
I would really say think about the best way to fulfill your mission in your current environment, rather than how to just execute tactics that might be irrelevant or out of date at this point. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of disruption that's happening right now, and really take advantage of that disruption to innovate. And so once you set the North Star, the mission, how you get there needs to be fluid. It needs to be agile, and just try it out, right? I mean, I think we spend a lot of time ideating and strategizing, but it's like, just go out there and do it, right? And then see what comes out of it. I think secondly is, always stay connected to those that you serve. That is so important. And I think sometimes it's easy to say, I'm going to come up with an idea, but I'm not sure if this is as relevant as it should be, because I'm not asking the people that are actually using it. So really stay connected with your guests, or whoever you're serving, and test and try it out with them, and get their feedback, and involve them in your process. And then lastly, I would say really leverage the power of your team and just collaboration overall. Bring in your partners, bring in your community, use your team to ideate. I mean, collaboration right now is so critical to problem solve. And I think there's an idea there's a partnership that may not feel like it would work, but you'll find these parallels and these tangents that actually do. And so to your point, it is the power of saying, yes, let's have a conversation. Let's explore, how can we revise this process or system, or come up with something together, because we are actually aligned in our mission in some way, or we have a common goal, and we are willing to put our energies together to solve this. And that's really important, just to remind us all that we're all in this spot together. And there's a lot of people that want to help solve the same problems that you're trying to solve. So let's come together and solve it with one another.
I think that's a terrific. Exactly. We're living in times of situational that require situational humility, whereby these problems are way too big for you, for me, for any one company.
Yes.
So let's get smart about this.
Yeah.
Link
Yeah.
arms and let's take it on. Face to face, head to head, heart to
Yeah.
heart.
And that's across nonprofit, that's across private companies, it's across cities. I mean,
Cross sector.
cross sector, like that's what is so important, because there's so many different resources and ideas that people have, and they're, like you said, they're all trying to solve similar problems in different ways, that it's so much more efficient, and it's so much more impactful when you do that. And it really is a case study, and can show how, if we do this together from a cross sector perspective, that we're all invested, right? We're all invested. Doesn't matter, if you're, like I said, from any of those three
Right.
sectors. So
Right. Well, listen, Chris Kepler, thank you so much.
Yes, you're
Such
welcome.
joy. First of many conversations I know. I look forward to hopefully hearing about how you're moving even forward and really helping even more people. Thank you and your team for all the rehumanizing that you're providing this world. So, so necessary and needed. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you as well. I appreciate your time.
And for those of you who joined us, thank you so much. We know you have a choice as to where and how and with whom you spend your time. I'm really appreciative that you chose us. So until our paths cross again, take care.